To open for episode 3, we're presented into the crab feeder who's been built up in episode 2, and we can really see how much of a threat he's going to be. Like, he's just in there, he's mixing it up, and he's obviously just absolutely carving, causing a real hassle for the Targaryens. And then we're presented into that time skip, so 3 years in the future past the episode 2, so we can see obviously that there has been a lot of escalating things happening behind the scenes with the crab feeder. He's obviously been absolutely causing, he's a real thorn in the side for him. And we get to see the build up between obviously the Sea Serpent and also Daemon as well. So that all comes into a full head in terms of the crab feeder and those guys, but we're going into that afterwards. So the king now has a new heir. It's his second name day, so that's how we get to establish how much time has passed, because obviously it's his second name day, so he's 2, and then we've got obviously 9 months for that baby to obviously be able to fully develop and get ready for the birth. So that's how we establish it. We can see obviously the High Guard princess, who is now queen, and we can see a conflict between her and Princess Rhea as well. Obviously Prince Rhea is struggling with the power that her friend now has, obviously married to her father and is now having a child with her father. Like, there'll be a weird strain on the dynamic of that friendship, and we can really see that coming. And she's really struggling in terms of her being named heir, and now obviously having a baby. Well, her father, the king, having a baby, and it's a boy, so obviously that's going to become heir, because that's what they want. And just because she is a girl, like, she's not going to be recognised by the whole kingdom, and just due to those traditions and law, and that's what they're really focused on. And I really like her portrayal. Like, obviously she feels betrayed, she feels hurt based on her station, and it's obviously going to have a massive impact down the line, where I felt like that was pretty well sort of fleshed out. And then obviously she is having a number of suitors. Like, all the families are now throwing their like prospects in terms of their sons at the king for the princess to then marry to further their stations. Like, there's lots of little moving parts that are all sort of really focused and all coming in, and the king is really struggling to decide what they need to do in terms of, does he like marry her off at one of the Lannisters coming in? We get to see a little bit of a relationship forming between Princess Rhea and the Lannisters, so that's going to be an interesting development further down the line as well. But the king is like, gets an offer in terms of betrothing his daughter and his new son. Like, I know they want to keep the bloodlines pure and stuff, but that's probably a little bit far. Probably not too far in this show, but like, it is what it is. And then obviously we've got one of the advisors is giving information in terms of what the Sea Serpent's son is probably one of the best matches to really establish that alliance and get the fleet as well. But where this really shines, like, obviously the acting was really good. I like the time skip where we're presented into the Sea Serpent and Daemon. Obviously they're going into battle, and they're really going out after the crab feeder, where the scene where you get to see Daemon, who actually then is having his internal conflict, and the battle is against himself, so he needs to prove himself about throwing himself into the fray without like any hesitation for his life, in the crab feeder into the tunnels for that big final showdown. But where it becomes that massive battle scene, like, I've became really disengaged in terms of, or disorientated of what was happening, just due to how many camera shots they were going. Like, a number of the times it just went from left to right, right to left, and then they were switching here and there, and then there was dragons coming in. Like, it was really cool for the stylish action, but in terms of all the camera shots and the changes, like, there was a lot happening, and I felt like they just missed exactly the big tension that they needed. Because of that time skip, like, we know that the crab feeder has been causing them a number of problems, but there was no sort of like real build up in terms of what he's done. Like, we had that big reveal at the end of episode 2, and now they're just gone, nah, he's dead. So we get to see Daemon, like, obviously run into the tunnel, and we get to see him dragging the body. Like, it was a really cool scene to see, but unfortunately it misses that emotional impact that you want, just due to the time skip, and we don't get to see the build up and that conflict. I know it's meant to further Daemon's station. Obviously this is to prove to everyone that he is the rightful heir, and he's able to like command and lead and be able to really just throw himself into those situations and be able to obviously come out as a victor. So that was interesting to see. It's just, it really misses the impact and the build up that you want, just due to that time skip. So I know they're like pushing the story forward just due to how quickly it is moving, but it was the hindrance of this episode. So from giving it like a really high score, which it probably should have been, it's just that emotional payoff isn't there. So for me, it's a 3 out of 5. Out the podcast, we've got a weekly podcast, Movie Talks. We got the vodcast on the channel. Otherwise, we're on Spotify, Apple, everywhere. And make sure you tune in for Twitch. So I'm live on Twitch every Tuesday and Thursday, 7:45 Australian Central Standard Time. And also, you know what to do on the channel. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, because we got more reviews. And tell your friends.